So what does it look like inside your own electrical panel in your house? In today's episode we will try to cover that, and I'll show you what the inside of your electrical panel looks like, what's going on in there, as well as how to add a additional circuit. So in this case I'm adding several different circuits for my basement renovation. So I've got some additional lighting circuits as well as some additional plug circuits as well, and a new circuit for some in-floor heat in a bathroom. With all these breakers, this I believe is a Honeywell panel, but it's all using Schneider breakers. So essentially you've got your power coming in on these two sides, which is going into sort of this blade here, and there's some little bit of electrical grease on there. Here you've got your neutral, and then your grounds. There's a bunch of these around the panel on the outside of the panel. So there's some in here, and they're kind of like all up the sides. So that's where your grounds go. These are your arc fault breakers, so you'll notice that they're quite a bit wider, and that's because they engage not only on the incoming power line, but then they also make contact with the neutral line, and so that's how they can detect the arc fault. So with all of these breakers, they just sort of tilt, harder to do one-handed. Tilt back like this, so you can see I've got a little hook that hooks in here and then clips back on the back side there. So again, when you saw me in the start of the video, first I turned all of the individual breakers off. Now these are, when you're looking at, it's not as big of a deal with residential panels, but as you get into the industrial stuff, if you shut off the main breaker while there is a large load, your arc fault opportunity here, if you got some issues with this, are a lot higher. So turning off all of the individual loads first is always a best before you go to the large one. Also, when you're doing the main breaker, if you have your hand off to the side or your body off to the side, when you break it, when you turn it off, if anything does happen, you're going to get a burn to your arm. You're not going to get a burn to your face and everything else too. So again, not as common in residential, but as you get up to the bigger industrial stuff, it's just sort of industry best practice, I suppose. And then you've got all your extra wire here, so there is a length of wire for each of these breakers in case you need to move them, or otherwise that is left in the panel and just kind of coiled up and sort of pressed along into the sides. So you do have to sort of pull those out gently to gain access when you're adding new installations. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. However, if you're not comfortable with this sort of stuff, please call a licensed electrician to do this work for you. You can watch him. Once you get comfortable with it, then you can try it on your own. But, if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you can get yourself in trouble. The biggest thing is to make sure that that main breaker coming into your house is off, and everything up here is still live. That's coming in from the city or the town or whatever. So there is still power up here. It's just from here down that you've cut power. So as far as the actual new installations goes here, so the first thing I'm doing is removing a breaker which I am going to be repurposing, and so I'm actually pulling, I'm going to pull this wire back out. So when you pop off the breaker, this one is not an arc fault breaker, so it just has the black power wire going to it. If it was an arc fault breaker, it would have both the black power wire as well as the white neutral going to a terminal on the breaker itself. So now I'm pulling up all of the sort of extra wires and stuff that are in the panel, and I'm trying to search for the neutral that and ground wire that correspond with that power wire so that I can disconnect those and pull those out of the panel. Now you will see some wires dangling from the ceiling there, so those are all of the new circuits that I'm going to be tying in, and those will need to be stripped back about 20 inches or so to reveal the wires inside, and then just the tips of those wires are actually stripped back to copper, and just enough for for you to make the connection on the terminal, either on the breaker or on the neutral bar or on the ground as it would be applicable. So also on the sides of the cabinet, there are knockouts. So those are sort of mostly already pre-cut out or pre-stamped out openings in the panel. And so there's just a little bit of a metal tab, usually two little tabs that are holding it in place. And those you can pop out with a screwdriver and a pair of pliers just by bending them back and forth. Just be careful, usually there are two different sizes, or often there are two different sizes kind of built into one. And so one will be a smaller size, and then one will be a larger size. You want to make sure that you bust out just enough of the knockout that it is the appropriate size for the retainer that you have. If you accidentally bust out the 3/4 inch or the 1 inch, and you only have the one size smaller securement clip, you're going to be in trouble and running back to the hardware store. Also, don't get carried away and bust out more than you need. You do need to have those covered if they aren't in use. So you will be, again, running to the hardware store to grab plugs for those if you open up more of those openings than you need. Here, because I am removing one of the cables, and I do have a little bit of extra room, for the majority of these I am going to be reusing or using existing holes and existing clips, just adding wires to them. When doing this job, make sure that you're well prepared for it. I have a battery-powered light that I'm using here to give myself some light. In this mechanical room, I don't have any lights or windows to the outside, so I'm relying 100% on that light for my light source to do this work. If you're lucky enough to have a window nearby, then you're in pretty good shape. But if not, make sure you got extra batteries on hand, and or an extra flashlight or something like that, so that you can continue on. Once you are kind of into this and have everything ripped apart, it's not really a situation where you can turn the power back on safely to charge batteries or do anything like that. You're really running without any power in your house until you finish this job off. And then I just like to work sort of circuit by circuit, slowly pulling in each new circuit and connecting it to the breaker. If I'm using sort of the double mini breakers, then I will do the sort of two circuits that are going to share that breaker at the same time together, just to make that as efficient as possible. But by going just one or two breakers at a time, you make sure that you've got all the grounds and the neutrals connected, and you can kind of take your time with it a little bit, especially if this is your first time. Just go slow, be patient with it. You really need to make sure that you've got all of this right. Give your connections a little bit of a tug on the grounds and on the breakers themselves and the neutrals, just to make sure that you do have them tight enough, and the wire isn't just going to pull out. And just be careful when you're moving the other wires around, that you don't accidentally disconnect one from another breaker or pull a ground or neutral, because that's going to cause you some problems going forward in the future, or cause a potential fire or a circuit not work. So you do need to be careful and make sure that all of your work you're doing is 100% correct, as you will find out the hard way if things are not correct. With all the new circuits connected, you can now go back and sort of press in and try to fit all of the excess wire back into the panel as nicely and neatly as possible. These panels do have a fair amount of room on sort of the left and right side of the breakers to get all of these pigtails or XX wire tucked into place. So just work it in and try to keep it as nice and neat as possible, and then you can start putting on the cover. Now if you've added circuits, again you'll have some knockouts on the door that you'll have to sort of pry back and forth a set of pliers and break off. There'll be just two sort of tabs holding it in place. But again, make sure you're breaking off the correct ones on the correct side and the correct number of them, as you will have to put blank off plates in if you break off too many of them. So with this, before you put the door back on, do one final check, make sure you got everything as it should, and then you can go and fasten. In this case, there's 6 screws that hold the panel door in place. Now hopefully this was helpful and gives you a little bit of insight into what's required to install additional circuits in your own home, but please do consult a certified electrician if you have any concerns or worries about doing this work yourself. Of all of the areas of sort of home improvement, this is probably one with the highest level of risk. So you really need to make sure you know what you're doing and are comfortable with it, and deem yourself competent to figure it out before you dive into it. If you've already subscribed, thank you so much. It means a lot. There's a lot more content for those who have not already subscribed and are not familiar with the channel. I've got a lot of videos already posted on my full basement remodel or development there that I have been working on over the last 6 months. So there should be videos there on pretty much every topic you need to do your own home renovation project or basement development or anything like that. I cover a wide variety of topics, so there should be something there for everyone. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below and I will try to get back to you. Due to the nature of this video, it's going to be pretty tough to give you any direct advice or how-tos on your particular application, as a lot of these panels are different and the risks and repercussions of doing it wrong are considerable. So please, if there is anything that I can do to help you out, I will try my best to do so. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.